the last regime of the local government in Rivers State, when their tenure ended, they wanted to extend their tenure through the instrumentality of the House of Assembly. And I was in support that it was illegal. And Governor Fubara wanted to use a caretaker committee to replace them. I was one of the lawyers that said this is illegal and that I do not support Governor Fubara to do that. And Governor Fubara can see that the Supreme Court sided some of us who said that the Constitution is clear on how the local government should be governed. Section 7(1) of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, states the system of local government by democratically elected local government councils is under this Constitution guaranteed, and every state shall ensure its existence by a law which provides for its establishment, for the structure, for the composition, for the finance and functions. The key phrase is democratically elected. The key statement. Now, the Supreme Court that gave judgment based on the case that Tinubu took to court through his Attorney General, gave a judgment that no local government in Nigeria should be governed again by caretaker committee, and that elections must hold. And they put a punishment that any local government that does not comply, the allocation to that local government should be withdrawn. And after consultation, 90 days was agreed on. So 90 days from that judgment, not only that it is illegal, unlawful, but it attracts punishment that can make a local government and a state unviable. And Fubara marshaled out the state, the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission, to organize the local government election in accordance with the Supreme Court judgment, in accordance with the provision of Section 7. And then you're telling me that some politicians who are enemies of progress, enemies of Rivers State, enemies of Rivers people, are parading the judgment of a lower court to say you will frustrate the judgment of the Supreme Court. That is judicial recklessness. Let me give you an example. In the United States, the DOJ was prosecuting Donald Trump, a former president, for interrupting and trying to overthrow the election. The president went to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court gave judgment that he has some immunities. Immediately the Supreme Court gave judgment, whether you like it or not. The whole system, the whole persons and authorities in the United States now started doing everything, including the DOJ, to make sure they conform with the Supreme Court judgment. Whenever the Supreme Court gives judgment, the only duty of lower courts, the only duty of any person or any authority in Nigeria is to ensure that the Supreme Court judgment is enforced. So the courts ought to be giving orders of mandamus, compelling every party that is involved in election of Rivers State, which include INEC, because INEC must give the register to the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission, which includes the RESC, that is Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission, which include the police, any person or any authority. What they should do or ought to have done is that they must do everything the law says they must do to comply with the order of the Supreme Court, which is that local government election must be held in Rivers State within 90 days. And so the IG of police, going against the judgment of Supreme Court, because he's parading the judgment of a high court, is a blasphemy. Now, let me give you an example. If the IGP of police gives an order and a police corporal disobeys it, and the IG summons the police corporal, and the police corporal stands in front of him and says, yes, sir, I disobeyed it because immediately you finished giving the order, the commissioner of police in my state gave a contrary order, and I decided to obey the order of the commissioner of police instead of your order. What do you think the IG should do to the policeman? Sack him. But that policeman, the corporal, has done exactly what the IG is doing. IG is purportedly saying he has an order of a high court when the Supreme Court has given an order, and he's saying he has decided to obey the order of the high court instead of that of the Supreme Court. And what does that mean? The IGP should be fired. You know why? By going to Rivers State, I'll tell you the laws he has breached. He has breached the policy of Tinubu's government, which is that every local government must hold election within 90 days. And IGP is there to frustrate the holding of the election. So he's even working against the policy of Tinubu's administration. It wasn't me that went to court. It was the Attorney General of the Federation on behalf of the Federation and on behalf of the President, who is in charge of the executive powers of the Federation. So the IGP is working against the policy of this government. 2, IGP went to Rivers State. He was standing on the land of Rivers State, not on federal land. He was standing on state agencies' land, not on federal agencies' land. The Land Use Act, Section 1, said every land in a state, every land comprised in a state, is vested in the governor of the state. And the state is holding it. And the state governor is holding it in trust for the people. Which law gives the IGP the right to go and stand on a state land in front of a state agency? Because the only exception is if the land is federal government land or federal agency, to give orders to a state governor. No, it is the state governor that should give orders to the IGP, because he is the chief security officer of the state. I don't know where the IGP got that power, but let me tell the IGP, unknowing to him, he has committed a judicial coup. The Constitution is very clear. In Section 1, subsection 2, he said, the government of Nigeria shall not be governed, nor shall any person or group of persons take over the control of the government of Nigeria or any part thereof in any manner except in accordance with the Constitution. The Constitution has already decreed that the system of local government by democratically elected local government councils is guaranteed under the Constitution. So if the IGP went to Rivers State in the negation of this provision, then he has become an accomplice to trying to assist people, to give them the power, using the instrumentality of the state, to make Rivers State to be governed or a part of it by people not in accordance with the Constitution. So the IGP is now an accomplice to trying to commit judicial coup. And let me tell you, Section 84, subsection 15 of the Electoral Act is very clear that nothing in this section or in the whole Electoral Act shall empower a court to stop the primary election or general election pending the determination of any suit. So where will the courts get the power to want to frustrate the election, local government election in Rivers State? You know what they want to do? They want to make the government of Governor Simfubara unviable. They want to make sure that the local government people in Rivers State and their people do not get their share, so that they will make it that he will have political problems with his people. And unfortunately, the IG of police is lending his voice to support this illegality and unlawfulness. Let me tell you, by IGP of police withdrawing the security from Rivers State, anybody that dies or is killed in that election because of that withdrawal, that will be a murder case against the IGP of police. I give you an example. Why is God holding David responsible for the death of Uriah? Did David physically kill Uriah? After committing adultery with the wife of Uriah, what David did was David set him up, and he told his army, set this man up in front of battle, and when he's in front of battle, withdraw from him so that he will be killed. Who did God hold responsible for the murder of Uriah? It is David, because he's the one who withdrew the force after setting up Uriah. IGP withdrew Nigerian police to set up Rivers State to go into flames. So whoever dies there, the blood is on the head of IGP of police.
The truth must be told. Nigeria needs religious revolution. Religious revolution. No development can take place in Nigeria without religious revolution. Now, what is religious revolution, you might ask? Because when we talk about revolution in Nigeria, many people cast their minds basically to political revolution, change of the current crop of leaders. Many people even go as far as saying, oh, gather all the political leaders or the politicians in one room and probably unalive all of them. That's the idea of revolution for some people, which is actually political revolution. And there's this misconception. Now, if you might disagree that it's a misconception, but it doesn't change the fact. Think about it. Is it not a misconception that once there is political revolution, then everything about Nigeria will be fine? Have you ever thought about it? Is it possible for you to have political revolution without religious revolution? There are 7 types of revolutions that must take place in Nigeria before a political revolution can be effective. 6 other revolutions in addition to political revolution. I made mention of these in another video and I went in details. But right now, let's just focus on one thing. Religious revolution. When you follow the money, when you do a cash flow analysis about how money enters into Nigeria and how money leaves, about how Nigerians become poor and how they become rich, about what Nigerians spend their money on, what they buy, what they wear, what they eat, when you follow the money, you realize that the church contributes in a very, very large way to the poverty, the unemployment that we have here. And you realize that there are certain religious revolutions that must take place